Yes, it's that time of the year. We are now officially 100 days away from the 2025 October-November International GCSE exam series. And 100 days might seem like a lot, but really it isn't. So, in this video, I'm going to show you what you should be doing so that you can stay on top of your revision and you can survive the exam season mentally and physically. And at the end, I will give you guys a bonus tip, which I think is very important and which I think you should know if you are doing the November exam series. So, without further ado, let's dive into the revision tips. So, you should be knowing that at this point, you have to have a good understanding of how the past papers work. So, past paper practice is a must. Of course, you don't have all the time in the world to be doing every single past paper full length. So, if you don't have that time, practice in parts. First of all, you should be focusing on the commonly asked questions. So these are the questions that come up almost every single year. In biology, for example, it could be the quadrant question, or it could be the immunization/vaccination question for triple science students. And once you get a good understanding of these commonly asked questions, you can move on to the harder questions. Like in biology, for example, it could be your higher order questions, the discuss, comment, evaluate questions, or pedigree analysis in human biology. Once you are done with practicing in parts, once you get comfortable with how the past papers work, you can move on to doing full-length timed papers. Make sure you time yourself and check if you meet the time limit. Initially, you might not meet the time limit, and it's okay. It's not a fault. As you progress through your practice sessions, you will get faster and faster, and eventually you will be able to meet the time limit, and you will find out that you might have some time left at the end of each paper to check your answers. Once you finish doing your papers, you have to mark your own papers, your own responses using the mark schemes. And a tip that I would like to give here is to use a past paper tracker to keep track of the marks that you're getting or even the grades that you're getting, as well as the mistakes that you made in each paper and your own reflection of how you could do better next time, how you could be avoiding those mistakes. Now, I'll leave a link to in the description to a past paper that I made. So it's a Notion template, and it's a good way to start your past paper tracker, although you can use other apps like Excel to make your own tracker. Next, you want to make a mistake notebook using the traffic light system. So red, green, and yellow. And basically, you're just collecting the questions that you find the most challenging, the most difficult, and you're compiling them in one place so that you can review them when it comes to exam season. Because when it comes to exam season, you really don't have all the time in the world to be revising every single thing in the specification. So having a mistake notebook is essential. And I've also made a mistake notebook template, a Notion template, which you can use. I'll have the link in the description. I like to call my mistake notebooks essential review questions because these are the most important questions that I should be testing myself on, like a couple of weeks or even like the exam night. And here I've also used a traffic light system, and you should be doing this for every single chapter in the specification. You can check this template out. The link is in the description. And here are some examples of the questions that I added to my own mistake notebook or my essential review questions. This is an example from biology. And as you progress to exam season, you can further distill those questions down. So this is an example of my mistake notebook that I made for paper 2 after I finished my paper 1. And I've even color coded them to give more importance to the even more difficult questions. So you can use this kind of filtration system to prioritize the even hard questions. Okay, so now let's move on to subject-specific tips, and we'll begin with English language. English language, as you know, guys, the specification B for EB1 English language, you have only one paper, and it is a 3-hour exam, which is the longest exam in international GCSE. So first of all, learn to endure sitting for 3 hours straight and writing. It's physically tiring and also mentally tormenting. But if you practice it, if you learn to do it for enough number of times, you will get used to it. So when you walk into the exam room, it will become a piece of cake. So you have to practice sitting for 3 hours. And 2, get someone else to mark your papers. When you look at your own writings, your own analyses, you think, it's pretty decent, it's very good. But when someone else checks your papers, they find mistakes, they find grammatical errors or creative flaws in your thinking. So getting someone else, your teacher, your tutor, or even your like senior students, it can be really helpful in identifying weak areas that you could work in. And of course, always play by the rules of the mark scheme. And of course, always look at the examiner reports to find out what the examiner's like in your creative writings, in your analyses, and so on. Moving on to maths, guys, this is a very straightforward piece of advice, but please practice every day. Even if you can't do it every single day, practice consistently. So something like 5 times a week, okay? And you should be giving at least an hour a day practicing maths, especially if it's your weak subject, because mathematics is a subject that takes time to develop and to grow in. So consistency is very important. And same thing here, you should be making a mistake notebook, or you should be collecting the most challenging questions, the most complex questions, and you should pair them with their solutions so that you can redo them during the exam season and see if you can still solve them, and you can check them with your past solutions to see if you have any flaws in your understanding at your current state. Last but not least, please take care of stupid mistakes. Careless mistakes, stupid mistakes, silly mistakes, blunders, whatever you like to call them, they can cost you a lot. Even if you can't solve entire difficult questions, if you stop making stupid mistakes on the questions that you already know how to solve, your grades will indeed go up. So please make sure that you start practicing mindfulness so that you don't make stupid mistakes, silly mistakes, and you will start getting the marks to climb to a grade 9. Last but not least, guys, for your sciences, take care of your calculation questions. You want to be banking full marks on your calculation questions. You do not want to be making silly mistakes. Very important. The examiner reports also emphasize how a considerable portion of the science exams are mathematic questions. So you want to be making sure that you're getting the marks on your calculation questions. And you want to be memorizing of the mark scheme for CAQs. So take particular note of the words in underline and make sure you have a notebook where you collect the most common mark points for the frequently asked questions or commonly asked questions. And tip number 3, guys, is if you have time, try to extend your understanding as much as you can. So sometimes you might have to go beyond the scope of the specification. And this applies especially to human biology students. You should be going outside the specification and exploring and extending your understanding of the topics. Memorization is okay, it works. But if you want to climb safely into the grade 9s, you want to make sure that you're able to understand those apply and evaluate and analysis questions, which you can only write, which you can only answer if you have a solid understanding of the course material or even beyond the course material. All right, now let's move on to the survival skills. So how are you going to be surviving this very tiring, arduous, and exhausting exam season? And the answer is simple. You have to endure. It doesn't matter how you feel right now. You have a goal in mind. You want to have a brighter future, more opportunities, and you want to go to top schools. You want to meet cool people, do cool things, and you want to have a lot of things opened up to you. So your dreams comes down to this moment. Even if you aren't going to university, even if you aren't doing A-levels, and therefore you have to endure all the hardships that you meet at this point so that you can have a brighter future later down the line. Motivation second, discipline first, and always remember why you are doing this. This is for your own dreams, not for someone else. But that doesn't mean we're completely neglecting our mental health. So how do we find the sweet balance between hours of revision and staying sane? The answer is simple. You work hard and you play hard. And that basically means you're finding the distinction between work time and relaxation time. No mixing of the two. When you're working, you're just working. When you're playing, you're playing. When you revise, you revise. When you relax, you relax. You do not have an overlap of the two. And that's very important to make sure that your quality of revision is very high, and also to make sure that when you are relaxing, you're not thinking about anything else, you're not very stressed. And the reduction in stress also comes down to the fact that when you are working, your focus is maximum. Your focus is 100%. So here is a typical day in my life back in February 2025, which was approximately 100 days away from the major exam series. So as you can see, I have my work time, labeled in red, and I have my rest time, which is labeled in green. There is no mixing of the two. So relaxation does not creep into work, and work does not creep into relaxation. That is really important for managing stress and also for managing deadlines, of course. And it's pretty much the same philosophy on weekends. When you're working, you're working. When you're relaxing, you're relaxing. That will help with managing your mental health, staying sane, not going crazy, but also staying productive and staying ahead of the game. And yes, you also have to take care of your physical health. Your body is not made of steel. It's not able to endure all of the torment, all of the torture that you put it through. If your body collapses, so will your dreams. Obviously, this is a hyperbole, but it's true to some extent. So you need to take care of your body and your physical health. Exercise, maybe take a walk in the park, do your push-ups for boys, and eat well, sleep well. You know the drill. This is the most important, the big three when it comes to physical health. So get these checked off the list as well. All right, last but not least, guys, the bonus tip. And I think this is very important if you are doing the October-November series. And this tip, guys, comes down to your exam schedule, especially outside the UK. Now, I don't know about other countries, but in Myanmar, the October-November exams start late in the evening. So things like 3 p.m. start times, 4 p.m. start times. And especially for those long exams, like your English language exams, you're going to finish your exams at around 6, 7 in the evening. And your body, your biology is not primed for optimal performance in the evening. It's naturally primed for optimal performance early in the morning. So because you're going to be taking exams late in the evening, your biology is going to be working against you. You might feel drowsy, you might feel tired, your body might feel a little bit of fatigue, and your mind might have some of that, mental fog from all of the revision. So the way we're going to overcome this is we're going to schedule our exam practice sessions to match the actual exam start times. So if you estimate that your paper is going to be starting at 3 p.m., you want to be scheduling your practice papers at 3 p.m. So for example, from 3 p.m. to 4:30, you're practicing to mimic the actual exam times. If you do this for enough number of times, you will shift your biological clock so that your body, your brain, your neurology, let's just say, is going to be primed for optimal function late in the evening when your exams are going to be starting. Now, the good news for you guys is that you guys have 100 days. If you're watching this video like freshly when it gets uploaded, you guys have 100 days. For me, I only had like 30 days when I figured this out, and I had to force shift my biological clock. For me, it wasn't late in the evening, but we still had exams up to like 4:30 in the evening. So I still had to shift my biological clock from my optimal preferred time of 9 to like later in the afternoon. And I had to do that with 30 days. You guys have a lot more time. So you're very lucky, and I hope you do find success with shifting your energy systems, I just say, so that they are at their peak late in the evening when you have your exam. And the second thing that I would like to point out is that you guys have back-to-back exams. The November series, guys, is only 4 weeks long. That means that your exams are going to get squished tightly together, and you're going to have multiple papers a week. Now, the major exam series lasted 8 weeks, if I remember correctly, and we had at max 4 papers in a single week, and the longest exam streak was 3 papers back to back. You guys are likely to have like 5 papers back to back, so that's going to be really tiring, really strenuous, mentally as well as physically. And you might even have 2 papers in a single day with only like 15 to 30 minutes of break time. So make sure that you are mentally and physically prepared for the hardship that's going to come at you, and make sure that your revision, your past paper practice is solid, so that even if you get woken up in the middle of the night and you are told to walk into the exam room, you can still bank that grade 9 that you want. Okay guys, that's all that we have for today's video. I think that's the fastest talking video that I've ever done, but I hope you've learned something from this video. Thank you all for watching until the end. Good luck with your exams, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.